because that is a spot to start catching them. Okay? All right, here's another real quick mark. We'll just show you real fast. This, could be a muskie. This is actually a walleye. Actually, muskie's going to be a little bit thicker with yellow. Smallmouth bass will actually look like that, just be a little less yellow. This is not a fish with scoliosis. This is actually a fish, and we're actually on Lake Erie. You can actually see the waves going up and down by the interference. You can actually see the waves on the bottom. That's what that fish looks like. That fish never moved his depth, but as the boat went up and down on the waves, what happened? He got further away, closer, further, closer. Because remember, sonar does not measure depth, it measures distance. All right, there will be a test later, so take some notes. Okay? Another cool thing about color units that black and white units can't do. Color units can separate targets that are at the exact same distance. Black and white units can't do that. Now here's what color can do. We've got 3 walleyes here. We've got 1 here, 2 here, 3 here. Now these 2 fish right here are at the exact same distance from the sonar unit. If you look at that picture, it looks like those fish are like this. That's not true. Those fish are actually like this. How do I know that? I know that because this top fish has a black line, which tells me it's an individual mark. This second fish does not have a black line on top of it. If those fish were like that, I would have had a black line on top of the top fish, a black line on top of the bottom fish. Color sonar, anytime they get 2 returns from the same distance, will stack the returns on top of each other and separate them with a red line. That tells you those 2 fish are at the same exact distance. One may be on the left side of the cone, one on the right. This is their true distance, right there. The top of the highest mark is their true distance, but those 2 fish are at the same exact distance from the transducer. If they were stacked on top of each other, there'd be a black mark right here. Understand that about color sonar. It's one thing color sonar can do that black and white cannot do. All right, let's talk a little bit about what you need to have a good sonar unit. First thing you need to look at, make sure you've got some good power. The higher the power, the smaller targets you can see, better target separation, better detail. That's pretty important to us as shallow water anglers. Power is rated in a number of watts RMS power, or our number of watts peak-to-peak power. Most units are advertised as peak-to-peak. If you want to have a good unit, you need at least 2,400 watts peak-to-peak power. Okay, Father's Day is coming up. Go look at your sonar unit. It's time to make a list. Okay, 2,400 watts peak-to-peak at a minimum. The higher you go, the better your sonar unit is going to perform. Better target separation you're going to get, smaller targets you're going to see. It's going to be easier to pull fish off the bottom, pull fish out of schools. Okay? Now, when you get your unit on the boat, probably the most important setting you can change or set up is your sensitivity. And most guys, I would tell you this, when I talk to guys about sonar, most people do not run enough sensitivity. 2 ways to tell if you're not running enough sensitivity. If you're running auto sensitivity, you're not running enough. Take your unit off auto, put it on manual, adjust your sensitivity manually. If you have a color unit, or even a black and white unit, if the background of your screen is clear if there's no fish, you're not running enough sensitivity. Your screen must be dirty to get the actual readings you need to see, especially if you see small fish, fish on the outside edge of your cone, fish are close to the bottom.
What is the gain adjustment? Is that sensitivity?
Same thing. Sensitivity, some units call it gain. Your unit needs to be dirty. If you have a color unit, it should be full of black and blue pixels. Because remember, the fish you want to catch are what? Yellow. If you don't turn your sensitivity up, guys, you're missing small bait fish. You're missing fish close to the bottom. You can even miss game fish if they're on the outside edge of the cone. Turn your sensitivity up. Okay?
How high is up? I mean, when you say up?
I run my sensitivity 90 to 95% all the time. I'm going to show you what a screen should look like. Most of you don't run enough sensitivity. Okay? That's enough sensitivity. That's at trolling speed. As your speed increases, the screen's going to get dirtier. I see a lot of people who want to get rid of all of this stuff. They turn their sensitivity down. They turn their noise filter on. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Well, I don't want to see all that stuff. That's just noise. Exactly. It's noise. Noise is always vertical. I've never seen a fish swim through the water like this. All right? So if the marks are vertical, it's noise. It's okay, because fish are always going to have some type of horizontal movement to them. Perch, 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 perch. You turn your sensitivity down to get a clean screen, you don't see that. I don't know about you, but a 10-foot circle directly below my boat with that many fish, I think I'm on a fish there. If you start turning your sensitivity down to get rid of all of this stuff, this goes away too. You have to run a dirty screen, folks. Turn your sensitivity up. Okay? Bait fish are pretty important. I don't know about you, but I know the fish I catch eat a lot. I'm assuming the fish you catch eat a lot of the fish I catch. But they like to eat. Fish like to eat. Fish have 3 things to do their whole life. Right? 2 or 3 weeks a year they're worried about reproducing. Rest of the time they have 2 things on their mind. Don't get eaten, and where's my next meal? Kind of like a pro fisherman. That's what we do. We go home for a couple of weeks after show season. And then the rest of the time we figure out where our next meal is coming from and hoping the guy behind us ain't going to catch us. That's what fish do, folks. Fish will live in water that's too warm or too cold. Fish will live in water that's too dirty or too clean, if that's the only place their food is. You want to know where to go fishing to find fish? Figure out what kind of bait lives in the lake you're fishing, know where it's at right now, you'll catch fish. Because I guarantee you, you ain't catching the fish you catch if there ain't food around. Okay? That's a lot of mass to be moving through the water looking for food. I'm going to sit right here. I found food, I'm not leaving. Find bait on your screen, guys. Find bait, find bait, find bait. Fish may not be there right now, but there will be fish there sooner or later. Okay? The other thing you have to be aware of, especially if you're dealing with walleye fishing in open water, see my little friend right here? That's a walleye. Right here. Okay? It's 12 feet deep or 40 feet of water. You know what he's doing? He's committed. He's done. He's committing suicide. He wants to die. Just give me something to eat. I'm going to eat it. You can't get a lure to that fish fast enough. That fish is up there feeding. He's actively moving. He's looking for a meal. Don't forget to look high. I'm sure you guys catch a lot of fish high from what I know about musky fishing. Okay? If you're catching fish in your prop wash, guys, you probably have the ability to mark some of those fish. Pay attention to what's going on up in the top part of the water column. All right, one more little feature I want to talk about. It's called color line. If you have a black and white unit, it's called gray line or white line. If you have a color unit, it's called color line. Absolutely critical to fishing. You want to come out here and start eliminating water, you can do it with your color line. Okay? The cool thing that color line does, if you have your unit set up right, it shows us how hard the bottom is. If you're fishing a Lowrance or Eagle unit, the thicker the bottom is, the more yellow there is. Here's the bottom right here. The more yellow there is, and the further it extends below the bottom, the harder the bottom is. So on the right side of the screen, I got a hard bottom. I start to turn to softer bottom. I'll wash out in this old river channel, get soft coming back out the other side, and got hard again as we moved off away from the shore.